Happy Thursday morning to each one of you comrades that have managed to join me via Facebook. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Allan Sakala. I am the 2021 Munali aspiring Member of Parliament. Currently, I am with the National Restoration Party. I am the Lusaka Provincial Youth Chairman for National Restoration Party. And this morning, I have decided to be able to share with you some of the headline challenges that are confronting us as a country as a result of having leadership that is not focused on delivering development, but having leadership that is focused on personal aggrandization and as well as also social affluence. There are key issues, comrades, that I want to be able to bring to your attention. But quickly, I want to be able to discuss the issue of debt, the debt stock that we have contracted as a country, the debt stock that is not sustainable, the debt stock that going forward, if we do not be able to put a damper to such reckless borrowing, it's going to put our country beyond repair. Now, I want to be able to remind you, comrades, that it took the unit government 27 years for them to borrow $7 billion. It took President Kaunda 27 years to borrow $7 billion. And it has taken the current government less than 8 years for them to be able to accumulate a debt stock of between $15 to $18 billion. Now, to those that understand the fundamental issues of a country, the fundamental issues of an economy, this information is alarming. The level at which we are contracting debt is quite alarming, comrades, and we need to be able to put a damper to such reckless and irresponsible leadership. Now, we are not opposed to borrowing, and personally, I'm not opposed to borrowing. It is very quite understood that there's no government, there's no country that has developed without borrowing. Even big economies, at one time or the other, have actually borrowed or contracted debt. And even just at personal level, we have borrowed and we are owing certain people. So borrowing is not something that we can be able to do without as a country. But I think the great opposition that we do have is, what are we borrowing for? And the greatest challenge that I do have as an individual is that the current administration is borrowing for consumption and not investment. If one is to borrow, that person must be able to borrow for investment and not for consumption. Now, we see that obviously there is a lot of infrastructure development, and we're not opposed to infrastructure development. Infrastructure development is a key element in the overall development of a country. But I think what is of concern is the levels of the lack of seriousness in terms of how such a robust program is undertaken. We've actually seen, for example, great public funds, leakages, in these projects in terms of how monies are being dispersed. We have seen great corruption. We have seen how corruptly some of these tenders are being awarded. We are seeing the quality of works that are coming out from some of these big projects. Now, you don't need to be an economist for you to know that every investment in infrastructure is always long-term. And therefore, it must be able to be backed with a clear strategy on how you hope to be able to mitigate the challenges in the economy. Because the investments that you are making will be long-term. They will be realized, but not in the interim. So what are you doing in the interim to make sure that you've got your economy under control? Comrades, our great concern is that our economy now is in ICU. And the people that are presiding over our economy, the people that are presiding over our country do not seem to care. Their only concern is to appease their political cronies, Their only concern is to perpetuate their stay on the levers of power. That is a great concern, because if we be able to continue on this particular avenue, Zambia does not last long, to be the ideal country that we have always known it to be. And the consequences of that do not require further elaboration. These are things that we know, comrades, that Zambia has gone on a destructive path, and that calls for young men and women, young men that cannot be sold nor bought, to come on board that and declare that we can never remain silent about the issues that are hurting our country. It is time, my brothers and sisters, that we come out as young people. Why am I calling upon the young people? I do believe that young people are the architects of our country's destiny. We are the bricklayers in the nation building process. You and I must be able to step up to ensure that we build a reliable future for our children and our children's children. Posterity will judge us harshly, comrades, if we fold our arms and do nothing about the worsening situation of our country. Zambia today has become an extension of China. Zambia today has become an enclave of Beijing. The only people that seem to be doing it, the only people that seem to be making it are Chinese. The only people that seem to be making it are those that are connected to the people that are in power. In 2015, the president did mention and promise the youths that he was going to create 500,000 jobs. This was during the launch of the National Youth Policy and Action Plan on Youth Empowerment and Job Creation. We are in 2018, and the multi-billion question that begs an answer is, how many jobs has the PF government created since that promise was given? I think it's time as young people that we stopped clapping for each and every speech that is given in deceit. Because by doing so, we continue to encourage mediocrity in our leaders. It's time that we stand up and demand accountability from those that we have elected to put in office. It's time that we demand answers from those that claim to represent us. Our interests have been misrepresented, comrades, and we can no longer keep silent. I am calling upon every well-meaning youth to be able to stand up. And when I say stand up, I do not mean that we be able to use defiance or we should be able to use insolence. We do not need the consciousness of insolence for us to be able to raise and put our voice across, comrades, because we believe that the environment is very much conducive for us to engage government at a round table meeting and demand answers for these pertinent questions that we do have. Let us stand up, and it begins with us raising a voice. Let us be united and be able to speak. That is the only way that we are going to be able to claim back this country from the hands of those that are misdirecting our country. Comrades, I want to be able to thank you, and I want to be able to encourage you to remain strong and remain vigilant, because Zambia is the only country that God has given us, and we cannot afford to experiment with what we have achieved as a country. We can no longer afford to experiment with the stability of our country. We can no longer experiment with the economy of our country. It is fashionable today for those that belong to the PF to actually start moving around the world, globe-trotting, at the expense of the poor Zambians that have put them in leadership. It is fashionable today for those that have been elected, for them to drive sleek and expensive vehicles with Titronic gearboxes, and they're very happy about it. Air-conditioned vehicles, they are very happy about it. But what is the condition of the voter that has put you in office? Do you have the conscience? Do you know when last the child of that voter had a meal? It is very sad, comrade, that we can be able to start neglecting very basic issues that are supposed to concern us not only as leaders, but as human beings. Every position that was elective or that is elective of the people must be able to put the interest of those particular voters forward. But what we see now is that we have been able to position our bellies. Most of these elected officials now, they've put on weight. They came in office very slim, but now they're actually one of the biggest people that we have in terms of size. Where is the care? Where is the love as a leader? Why do you want to be able to bend the moral will of the state to force the opposition into submission? You were elected on a platform of pro-poor, and yet the policies that you're exhibiting now are of an extreme capitalist society. Where is the shame? Let's stand up, comrades. Thank you very much. Allan Sakala, Komboni Guru, Munali Aspiring Member of Parliament 2021. Kind regards.